Say hi to people.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to my Sunday evening working live stream. I'm Alex Markley with Markley Bros Entertainment, and I'm going to continue today in my crazy Blender visual effects series. I have a whole bunch of work to do, and I'm inviting you to join me as I figure out what I'm doing. So, a couple of things. Yes, I'm still drinking coffee, even though it is after 8 p.m. here. That is basically the only thing that keeps me going. So, a couple of notes I wanted to before we jump in. I want to make just a quick announcement. So, thank you so much to everyone who checked out the brand new, as of today, Patreon page. And even bigger thanks to folks who supported us today, who pledged support for us on Patreon. And I'm going to go ahead and do a quick overview and shout out to those folks. Let's see if I can get this right. So, brand new Patreon page here today. It literally, like, hot off the presses, very experimental. I'm very interested to know what you guys think. This was my first pass at membership tiers. Now, obviously, I'm making the assumption that you know already what Markley Bros Entertainment is and what we're all about. If you don't, let me know, and I will tell you all about it, or I will point you to some of our other videos and such. But basically, the idea here is that if you are interested in Markley Bros Entertainment and what it is that we are doing, what we're making, or if you find any of these videos funny or informative or anything in between, then we have a few different tiers for you to consider supporting us. And I wanted to do shout outs to our very first Patreon support embers, total VIPs here, guys. And first shout out goes to my mom and dad, which, you know, that's how these things go. But thank you so much to them. Also to my sister Susie and her husband Drew, and my brother Gabe and his wife Rachel, and my sister-in-law Michaela. Now, obviously, these are all family members, but as you might guess, family members are the ones who have supported me and supported Markley Bros Entertainment since the very beginning and through our entire crazy journey. So I honestly, couldn't be prouder to have those folks as our first supporters, and folks, you know, outside of my family, you're all welcome too. It's definitely not just for Markley folks. So interested to have any feedback that you might have about the tiers, about the presentation, if the rewards seem clear enough. A lot of it right now is based on Discord and other community-based rewards, although we will be doing a ton more uploads here shortly. But I do intend to fill out the reward tiers with more premium content in the very short term. So very near future. Keep an eye out for that, because that's going to be huge. And two, I just want to do a quick connect the dots here. Any support that you provide for Markley Bros Entertainment also goes to supporting the tooling and the creative, you know, not just the creative endeavors and the entertainment, but also the software and some of the other fun things that we intend to provide to the creative community, which includes things like these videos, where today I'm going to be diving in to doing some Blender stuff, and we're going to figure some stuff out together. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking about Patreon for a bit, because we have a ton of VFX work to do. And so let's just jump right into that. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to launch Blender, and we're going to start with the default cube here and delete everything. Basically, what I'm trying to do here is I want to kind of provide you with a ground up view of how to do motion reconstruction, basically from nothing. So, you know, I have a video clip, and I'm going to pull that open. But the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to open up this motion tracking workspace. And really, there's nothing special about this workspace. It just, you know, opens up one of these movie clip editors and a movie clip tracker, graph tracker. These up here, I actually don't like having these here. So I'm going to get rid of these right now. Okay, so now I just have my main window, and I have my graph down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull open this video, and we're going to take a look at what I'm working with. Now, heads up, if you are interested in the Malex Minute, this is going to be, there are going to be some spoilers here. So just a heads up on that. Not a ton of, you know, nothing too bad. I'm not gonna spoil the whole thing by any means, but I would say minor spoilers here today. Okay, so I opened a proxy frame sequence here, and I'm gonna try dragging the playhead around. You'll notice that there's it's a little bit hitchy, and you see these light blue and darker blue areas here. I'm actually going to hit P, that's the letter P, on my, well, maybe I am, who knows, anything could be broken. Oh yeah, okay. So I actually need to set up my frames first. So here's what you get when you do live. Everything is sketchy. So my idea here is I want to set up the scene so that, yeah, that's not right. I want to set up the scene so that it has frames that match the frame sequence. So you'll see here we start at 0, go to 1, 2, and that matches with the with this frame 0. So we're going to do start at 0, and then over here we're at frame 145. Okay. The reason I like that, I have a background in programming, and I really prefer not to start counting at 1. It's actually a lot harder to start counting at 1 than you might think, and it leads to all sorts of problems. So I just start counting from 0. You know, my kids don't like it, but what are you going to do? All right, so back to our prefetching. Now I hit P and we begin to prefetch. You'll notice that it's basically pulling in all of the frames to fill in this entire bar. And as a result, what I get is an incredibly smooth, super buttery smooth loading for this. Now, this also goes to why I am using, although you can't really see it here in my memory graph, why I'm using a proxy. So what I'm trying to do here with my proxy footage is to basically load up enough resolution of this scene so that Blender can reverse engineer the exact position and orientation of the camera at every frame, but not so much information, not so much resolution that it crashes my computer. This machine is no slouch. It's got I think 64 gigs of RAM, which I guess is not a huge amount, but yeah, 64 gigs of RAM. But I mean, it's not enough that you can load, you know, tens of minutes of footage straight into RAM, and it's certainly not enough that you could load a bunch of 6K footage, which is what I'm shooting. And like, so just a moment on what this scene is before we dive into the process. I love a good dolly shot. I'm just a total sucker for it. And so this is why I am so glad that we finally have a real dolly that I can use to get these kinds of shots. And the thing is, when you are working on a world building situation where you really want to indicate to the viewers that there is a deep, persistent cartoon presence in this world, and you're using CGI for that, it really means that you have to put CGI in every shot. And so in this shot, actually, this is a dollying sort of introduction to Snufflefungus's bedroom. This is the first time in our show that we will have seen Snufflefungus's bedroom, and he's got this cute little loft bed, and he's got a little desk under here, and I want to put one of his stuffed toys in here. In a wider shot, we'll see some more CGI, which, depending on how long it takes us, we may or may not get to that tonight. But I want to be able to put one of his little toys on this desk right here. And therein lies the entire crux of the motion tracking value proposition. If you're not following along, basically, if I want a CGI element like a toy to be sitting on this desk, then that CGI toy needs to track along the scene in the same exact manner as, let's say, this wooden race car. And the only way for that to be possible is if the CGI camera matches. That's why they use, match moving or motion matching. The CGI camera needs to match what the original camera did. So without going into too much absurd detail here, I actually want to quickly show you what I've seen some folks do that I don't like, and I'm going to explain why I don't like it here. A lot of times what I see folks do is basically go directly to detecting features and then track forward, and then they jump back and then track backward, and then they'll kind of call it a day. And the reason why I really don't like that, and this is also why we keep a close eye on this graph here, you'll notice a lot of these motion trackers don't actually make a ton of sense, in that they have detected features and they are sticking to those features. But boy, oh boy, they're not making sense spatially. Now, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. And this will help to form the basis of the recommendation that I make here. So you'll notice that this tracker here has a huge motion spike right in the middle. He's going along, and most of these trackers, they have a similar motion arc. It's similar. It's not the same, but it's very similar. And or at least they follow similar shapes. And then this guy suddenly spikes. Well, look at what happens right here. Notice that he jumps along the edge of the bed frame. Now, the reason that's happening is because this is not a real feature in the sense of a spatial feature that you can realistically latch onto. This is actually a specular highlight. And so as the camera moves, the light plays along the edge of the surface, and as a result, surprise, surprise, it's very hard for it to stay tracked. And honestly, what's happening here is it's kind of sliding around. I mean, it's not as bad as some that I've seen. It's actually kind of sticking pretty well, but it definitely jumps, and it's not really attached to a particular point in 3D space. It's really more attached to the reflection of the light. Let me give you another example. This one's even more egregious because, honestly, it's a little bit more insidious. And you'll notice if you look at the motion graph, you don't actually see a huge spike here, but this guy is like sliding like crazy all the way down this edge of the table. Now, why is that? This is actually an intersection that he's following, an occlusion intersection. And because the table has an edge here, which is being occluded, it has this little wedge-shaped pattern, and this feature tracker is like very happily just sliding down in space, and he's not actually attached to anything. That tracker is a complete lie. And what that'll do is that will completely throw off your solution. Okay, so I've explained why I don't like to just auto track and use detected features. So then you might ask, well, Alex, what is it then that I'm supposed to do? Because this is a completely overwhelming task. Well, have no fear, because actually what we're trying to do is relatively simple. Now that we've seen a couple of examples of tracks that are bad ideas, tracks that will not work very well, let's talk about some tracks that we do see in this scene, some markers in this scene that we think would be really good. Now, I'm going to zoom in here so that I can make a quick selection, and I'm going to tell it that I want this track to be normalized. Now this thing's going to make a liar out of me. Oh yeah, that's a really bad track. Okay, never mind. I take that back. I completely take that back. Let's do this one instead. This is a little bit higher contrast. And the reason why I like this is because it actually represents a real thing in the wall that can be visibly seen and I think probably tracked. This might end up being a really bad track, but we're gonna find out. So it should be pretty easy to track over the lifetime of this scene, and voila, what do you know? We're getting a pretty good track here. And of course, the bed frame occludes it. Never fear, this is fine. In fact, it's not a big deal at all as long as you pick it back up when you see it again. So it comes back into view about here. I'm going to hit G to grab this track and drop it right here. Now, what I'm looking at is this up here. This is sort of the visual representation of what that track is looking at. Matters a lot more when, well, it just helps, I think, to be able to visualize what the computer is kind of seeing there. Now, I think that's pretty good. I'm actually, now that I've done that, I'm actually kind of encouraged that this might work a little better. We're going to try that again. Okay. Gonna track it backward. And does it appear to be stuck to that actual physical spot? And the answer is yes, it does. And one of the things I really like about that guy is that he's visible through the entire frame. There's no situations where he's invisible. Okay. So now, again, you might be thinking, well, Alex, this is absurd. This is a painstaking process, and you're gonna be here all day. Actually, I don't think we are, because normally, and I say normally because in situations, I about pointed at my screen. In situations like this, where the tracker is occluded, you need more information to compensate for that track being invisible. But in order to get a solid solution, you only need 8 tracks. You heard it right, folks. You only need 8 tracks. And the reason why a lot of times software will go crazy looking for just a ton of markers, features to track, is really just because by default it's so bad at picking good tracks, good markers to track. So it doesn't generally work without a ton. So, you know, that's where you're going to have problems. Again, I'm looking up here to try to center visually in the very middle. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, now let's talk about another pitfall that we're going to run into. And the reason this matters is because The whole point of this exercise is for Blender to be able to figure out and sort of guess where the camera is located at any given point in time. So where in space is the camera at the time that all of these markers were visible? And the way this works is using a ton of math that, frankly, I do not understand. But the idea is that in a perspective camera, you should be able to project out the 3D position of each one of these tracks and land at the 2D location of the marker. And if your camera is in the correct position, then all of the tracks will line up exactly. And if they don't line up, then you have to, I guess, try harder with your life. I don't really, again, I did not claim to understand the math. But in order for this to work, all the tracks cannot be on the same plane. And in simple language, what that means is, so far we have 3 tracks. They're all on the wall. That is not good because we need more depth information, aka parallax. And so you can see all of these tracks. I mean, basically, they're all moving at almost exactly the same rate over time, and that is useless to me. Super, super useless. So let's grab this guy, because I feel like this guy is going to be moving a lot faster. And the reason he's going to be moving faster is because he's closer to the camera. This is the same conversation that I just had with my son as we were in the car the other day, and he could see the moon. And he's asking me, Dad, is the moon chasing us? I don't remember being that stupid. But hey, kids are going to be kids, man. But no, it's a good observation, and it's something that you want to talk about with your kids. Parallax, guys. If you don't understand parallax, how are you going to understand anything? That's what I want to know. All right. So this is a great track. I mean, holy cow, look at that. Look at that. And we've got now I'm going to count these two as one because they both get occluded, but not at the same time. So effectively, those are 1. So 1, 2, 3. And 3 tracks that are good across the entire scene. All right, let's get another good one here. And I love this. This is super easy. I'm having a ball with this, guys. I'm going to scale this guy up just a tiny bit. Now, one thing I noticed with this guy when I was doing this before is that these tracks would really jump from like one spine to another. So I'm going to try the face. Let's try that face. Holy cow, did we just get that across the entire thing? Yes, we did. What? All right. I love it. And again, you know, sometimes these tracks don't automatically track across the entire frame. This is really kind of a best case scenario. And I've had to deal with some cases where, you know what, I gotta manually keyframe some of these for a while before they come back to life and actually start tracking. You know what? Sometimes you gotta deal with it. Like, that's just life, guys. Sometimes it's just life. All right. So I like the end of this pencil. Let's grab that guy right there. Yep, that's looking good. Now, I'm at a little bit of risk here because there's a specular highlight here, and it's also an intersection. So the end of this pencil might end up being a bad idea, but we're going to try it anyway. Let's see. How attached does it seem? Now, one thing I'm noticing, or one thing that I'm keeping an eye on, again, keep an eye on up here. When I'm scanning back and forth, like, it looks like it's pretty much stuck to the end of that pencil. That's pretty close. That's reasonable. So let's, and we lost it. Okay, here's where some keyframing is going to come into play. So, yeah, that's not the best track. All right, so we lose it here. What I'm going to do is just hit G and grab it and put him right back on that pencil. And keep going. Let's see what happens. Oh, hey, there we go. That's not too bad. So I only had to correct it one time, one additional keyframe, and there you go. That's not too bad. Hey, you know, sometimes you just got to take the easy wins and just go with it. Oh, hey. Oh, all right. So I'm just looking over at my chat, and I've got a couple of folks. So Tyler and Nicole, thank you both so much for joining. And Tyler, yes, this is in fact a Threadripper. This is my only Threadripper, and I enjoy it very much. And yes, this is also why I upgraded this machine to Rocky Linux so that I could have Rel 8. Nicole, also wave. Thank you for waving. If you want to like make a comment, I could respond to that too. I don't really know how to respond to a wave other than waving back. But thank you both for joining. All right, let's see. So we're getting close, I would say, to a point where we can have some confidence in this solution. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 3 more. Let's do 3 more before we call it a day. And I'm gonna grab this purple dot right here, because that looks to me, you know, and again, the computer might not like that, but I like it. I like, it's not the highest contrast feature. That's fine. I don't care. I can see it and I can track it, and I don't need that much optically. I don't need that much information to get a really good track. We had a question, Quentin asked a really good question last week, which was, you know, does optical tracking actually work? And, you know, I think it does. Your eyes can see the parallax and reverse engineer a perspective. That's how your eyes work every day. So there should be enough information in here to identify. So there's a point on the chair, and that was easy. That, you know, it may not have fit the definition of, you know, a computer vision classical definition of like the best feature that you might want to grab, but man, I can see that it's stuck there. It looks that's good. Yeah, and we only need 2 more. All right, now these next 2 are going to be really strategic, and the reason I'm going to do these, and you'll see this later if we get there, if we have enough time tonight, is I want to use these 2 corners to help me scale the scene. And what I mean by that is, I'll explain more later, but generally I know how big this table is across. I know how wide across the table is, and so if I tell Blender that these 2 points are X number of inches apart, that it'll help things tremendously. All right, so let's try that. Now we're getting fancy here because we've got a we're going to try to track 2 of these markers at the same time. So I'm going to select them both. Track forward. Nice. Nice. And track backward. Okay. Now they both fall off at... Oh no. What just happened? Oh yeah. Okay. They both fall off at the end. That's totally expected because they're not visible. So these are not necessarily the best markers for finishing Art 8, but strategically speaking, we do need both of these. This is a suspicious spike. What is going on there? Also, why can't I do anything right now? What is going on? Huh. So I don't like that spike right there. I don't feel like it correlates really well with any of the other So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the track path past to the left of that. So it can't see it anymore. All right, let's take a look at comments. So Tyler says, Rocky Lennox, that explains the logo. Haven't looked into the CentOS alternatives yet. This is the first time I've tried, and honestly, I'm really enjoying it. I know there's a couple, but I like the connection to the original founder, and I've always been a huge fan of CentOS, and so this is really scratching an itch for me. You know, because I love my Fedora, I love my RPMs, but man, I just need some LTS support in my life. And two, you know, I like that I can run DaVinci Resolve. This will factor in later videos in the series. We'll do some stuff inside of Resolve. So I get to have a true, honest to goodness Linux workstation that I can do all of my entire video production in, which is just incredible. So, all right, so fan24DRR, ambiguous statement, so you know I'm here, but you don't know how to respond to, so you are more uncomfortable. It makes me so uncomfortable, but thank you for making an ambiguous statement. Sir fan24der, I don't know how to say that. But seriously, thank you. All right, so let's complete our track here. We've been monkeying around long enough. And so I said before, these two tracks here and here are strategically important for us, but they do not help us complete our 8 because they are invisible during the first 40-ish, 35-ish frames of the animation of the video. So I'm going to grab, what am I going to grab? Golly. G Willikers. Let's just grab this corner over here. Oh no. What have I done? Oh yeah. I can mouse. I know how to mouse. Alright, so let's try. I'm going to just grab this guy. Guys, also, I just want to mention, if it feels to you like I know what I'm doing in Blender, I'm obviously a much better performer than anybody ever guessed. Because holy cow, I really feel like a Blender newbie. Every day, I get spanked by this tool. And, well, I'm going to stop there because that's about all I can say about it. It's actually amazing. I really do love Blender, but it's like this love-hate relationship because I never feel so elatedly stupid as dealing with this thing because it gives me so much power, but it also just makes me feel so dumb. Cool. All right, so we got a track there, and let's grab one more. Another item here that I noticed is plainly visible through the entire video is this wheel right here. Let's just grab that guy. Okay. Now again, as we kind of walk into moving toward a solution. Oh no, we lost it. Let's go backward. Hey, look at that. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so he's not occluded. We can still see him. Let's just grab and reset. So there's like a single keyframe. Oh, I don't like that. No, no, no. I want to do better than that. That's like a tiny bit of motion. That's... All right, so I'm trying to compare. Okay, yeah, so over here, it's not actually centered. It's more like over here, so that's why it looks wrong. So what I'm looking at this motion track marker. I'm looking here to compare. And I'm looking here to make sure that this graph aligns, at least in the shape. So yeah, now looking at this graph, this is pretty amazing. The main spikes that you see here are trackers popping into and out of existence. I wish they would fix this visualization because I really feel like a tracker going from not visible to suddenly visible is not equivalent to it suddenly accelerating, like zooming into that position. Like that's not correct. That's not the right way to visualize that. It should not be there and then suddenly be there. It shouldn't like jump because I'm looking for a smooth curve. All right. So I'm going to make another quick sort of side diversion here around what it is exactly that I'm trying to do. We're looking for an error rate, a reprojection error rate less than 0.25. And the reason for that, a lot of times you'll see folks online talk about, shooting for an error less than 1. I actually want to do better than that because this is a proxy that I'm working on that is 1080p, but the footage was shot in 6K, and I'm hoping to kind of target a 4K delivery. So that means that the reprojection error rate should be less than 1/4 of a pixel, I would think, so that we could theoretically target 4K. If we can only get down to about 1 pixel error, then that's just further evidence that we're not ready for 4K yet, if that makes sense. And having higher resolution doesn't necessarily improve the motion reconstruction aspect of this. Because again, optically, there's plenty of information here to work with. I don't feel like we need that much more. All right, so this looks good. Now, I'm not going to go into the Solve tab yet. Not just yet. And the reason is because we need to do some work on our camera. Whoa. Okay. So, yeah, that's not relevant for right now. Okay. Yes. I almost got lost there for a second. Okay, so what I've done is I've spent a lot of time trying to measure my camera's what are called intrinsics. This is a little bit technical, and I thought I was going to have this pulled up, but I do not. You know what, that's a little risky. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay. So without going into too much detail, basically what we're trying to do we're trying to calculate both the perspective camera's intrinsics and extrinsics. So having spent some time working on OpenCV for computer vision projects and the Your Face performance capture project in particular, a lot of times for that kind of project, we only care about camera intrinsics and we really don't care about camera extrinsics because we kind of assume that the camera is the center of the world. So we don't really care about where the camera is located or what it is pointed at. It just is either pointed at a face or it's not. Well, in this case, and I'm going to grab something real quick. We actually care quite a bit about the camera intrinsic measurements and the camera extrinsic measurements. In fact, that's the whole point of this exercise. We want to know where the camera is and what it's pointed at. The trick is, this lens, which I used to shoot this this shot, and my camera's clock is super wrong, so bear with me there. But these are some of the measurements or some of the settings that were. Oh no, that's not the right. That's not right at all. No, it's this one. Yeah, okay. These were the settings we were using. So 14 millimeters, 1.7 millimeters, or I'm sorry, 1.7 meters focal length. But with this lens, which this is the lens that I was actually using to shoot that scene, it doesn't actually have the best lens properties. Like there's some chromatic aberration, which is where the colors sort of start to spread unevenly and create a weird banding effect. And there's some distortion around the edges, which can cause all kinds of weird issues with not just lining up your CGI and your real world stuff, but it can also cause issues trying to figure out where each one of those points are. So I used some out-of-the-box OpenCV Python code and literally a printed photo of a checkerboard pattern. That's not a photo, a printed image of a checkerboard pattern. And I used that to calculate a ton of data about my lens. So that's it. That's my whole spiel about where these numbers come from. Is during filming, I went through, I took a bunch of pictures with the same lens in the same configuration of this checkerboard. I ran some code on it that I did not write because I'm not that smart. I don't want you guys to think that. And so anyway, I extracted that information out of here. Now, it goes directly in Blender, and what's great about it is Blender uses that information to massively improve the accuracy of the solution. Okay, so I've got a camera sensor width of 23.1. How do I know this? I looked it up. That's how I know it, is with my camera. My sensor width is 23.1 millimeters. The focal length was 14.31 millimeters. Now, you'll notice that the camera itself reported the focal length as 14 millimeters. And it appears as though it does not, the accuracy is not any higher than that. So be warned, when you are looking at camera metadata, it may not have the full picture, and you are going to want to do some measurements, do some calibrating measurements rather than just guess. Okay. One thing that annoys me is this brown model that we're using to articulate our lens coefficients, our lens distortion coefficients. OpenCV doesn't support K4. So I guess that just means that I leave it at 0. I don't know any better. All right. So it's going to be a tragedy here in a minute when Blender crashes because I haven't saved. So I'm going to do that. Just real quick like. I'm way farther along than I was before. I had poked around at this shot just a few minutes earlier today. All right, so what did adding all of this in actually do for us? Well, up here in clip display, nope. Yep, where am I? Okay, here we go. So showing the grid, you'll notice that this grid is slightly deformed. And the reason is because this is kind of visualizing our lens distortion for us. But we can do better. I can actually click this button and show the undistorted image, which will give us a little bit better way to visualize how that distortion affects the image. And you might not immediately notice a difference, but I'll tell you where you'll notice it the most is some of these edges, like straight edges, get a little bit less warped. And honestly too, just being honest, from a creative perspective, I really don't mind the lens distortion here. You know, this bed edge here, this edge of the bed frame being a little bit straighter really doesn't do it for me all that much, creatively speaking. Like I don't care. But what it does do is it should improve the computer's ability to solve the camera and really give us a solid answer of where was the camera and what direction was it pointed at every frame. All right, enough yammering, Alex. Give us the solution. All right, so we're going to go into solve, and I'm going to tell it, hey, go ahead and pick a keyframe. Try to, you know what, I'm going to uncheck focal length, optical center, radial distortion, tangential. Yeah, I'm going to leave all those unchecked for now because I think I have better numbers for these. So I'm going to select all and hit solve. It's going to select the keyframes and then immediately, and I mean immediately because this is a super fast computer, give me a solve error of 0.96, which I'll tell you what, that's pretty good. I'm pleased with that for the first pass. Now, is it good enough? No, I think we can do better. So the solve error, again, this is the average distance of any given tracker from where the camera model thinks it should be, if it is in fact in 3D space where Blender thinks it is. So we can go in to any one of these tracks and take a look and see, oh, average error on this, 0.92 pixels. Average error on this, whoa, 1.64 pixels. Like, that's kind of a lot. That's kind of crazy. This one, 0.97 pixels. Okay. Now, I don't think that what we want to do is go through and pick every one of these. That's probably not a great idea. But what we do want to do is I'm going to go ahead and use cleanup. And I am going to find tracks that have an error greater than 1. Okay. Did it select all of those? Ah, that's not great. That's not my favorite. That's gonna take out a bunch of these. All right, let's do 1.2 and clean tracks. Yeah, that guy. Delete. All right. Now, I'm going to clear the solution, and I'm going to try to solve again. Okay, solve error went down to 0.72. So that's cool. We still have probably tracks that have an error above 1. There's one of them. This guy has an error above 1. Let's delete this guy because that was a little bit aspirational anyway. Let's clear our solution and try again. Okay, 0.67. We're really not bringing the error rate down the way I would hope that we are, and there's a couple things that we can do to fix that. First off, let me give Blender, and I'm gonna save again first. I'm gonna give Blender permission to adjust all of these settings, because if it does find a better answer, then I want to let it do that. And we'll use these all as starting points, but let Blender adjust as it sees fit. Ooh, and look at that. We got a solve error down below 0.25. Yeah, so theoretically, this solution should be good enough that we could actually use this in a 4K video because it's less than 1/4 of a pixel of error. Now, I do want to see, were there any major outliers. That's what I want to know. So normally, again, that's the average error. So there may have been, what was our minority report? Okay, we've got a couple of guys over here that have high error. So there's an error of 0.41. There's an error of 0.3. There's an error of 0.44. Golly, let's get rid of this guy. He's not helping us with anything. And let's replace him with, I'm just spitballing here. Let's see. Let's add another. Let's actually add one right here. So you can see how it's an iterative process. It's really not that painful. We've been at this for less than an hour, and I've been not moving very fast. And I'm almost done. All right, let's bring this guy here, track backward. Yeah, look at that. Now that is a good track right there. And for good measure, let's just toss in this guy right here. I think this guy's visible through the whole thing, right? Yeah, he is. Okay. Well, now what have I done? All right. Track backward. And track forward. Okay, good times. All right. I'm going to stand up here. All right, let's get this wrapped up because I'm feeling good about this now. All right, again, I'm going to clear the solution just in case there's any wonkiness. And again, we have a solve error of 0.24. That's kind of persistent. Usually I can get it lower than that, so not really sure. Oh, it came up with some really wacky numbers here. I was worried about that. Okay. Sometimes what happens is there's actually more than one plausible solution. And so you can get numbers that just don't make any sense anymore. And we're really close to zero here, so I'm gonna try wiping that out and try again here. And we'll just let him, because I guess Blender's a him now. Yeah, that's the best we can do is 0.24. All right, let's see if we can. Yeah, we're just moving the error around. There's 0.4, yikes, 0.25, 0.33, 0.27. These make some sense that these are tricky. And you know, I don't care because honestly 0.24 is really good and I'm not going to complain about it. But we need to check and see. Yeah, again though, we came back with a focal length of 17.33 millimeters, which tells me yeah, I don't know what that tells me. Nothing good. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. Oh, man. Guys, this is what happens when you don't have enough coffee. So I initially had this lens highlighted as this was the lens I was using for that scene. And then for some reason I confused myself by picking up the Tamron, and so I thought it was the Tamron, but holy cow, I definitely used the Sigma, and I was running at roughly 18 millimeters, which also means that the camera intrinsics, oh my gosh, they were totally wrong. So, you know, hey, we're figuring it out as we go. How does that sound? But here's the payoff. I'm going to set this up as background. I'm going to set up a tracking scene. And now we have a bunch of stuff in here that if I go over here and go into my camera view, you can see. Now, you'll notice that nothing is lined up. That is okay. That is no big deal, because when we go back in here, I'm going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to pick this, and this, and I'm going to set them as the floor. Ta-da! And I'm going to pick this guy just arbitrarily and mark him as the origin. So now when I go back into my view, you will notice there is just a ton of stuff going on in here. Let's get rid of that. Let's mark the ground as wireframe. Yep. All right, and we have so I'm noticing that this is more than a few pixels off. That is like a ton off. Let's check and see what happened with our background images. Render undistorted, bingo. Okay, so now that's a lot of lens distortion that it's trying to fix. That seems a little goofy. So let's go back in here. Show our grid. Yeah, look at that. That's total nonsense. That's not what that camera looks like. So you'll notice that Blender, in an attempt to try to solve for our distortion here, Blender came up with something a little goofy. So let's actually set those at 0, 0, 0, and I'm gonna tell Blender not to worry about a couple of these things. So let's try one more, but that's okay. Yeah, now it's completely wrong about the focal length. But that's okay. You know what? Because this is a really short scene. This is a really short shot. And we really don't need much. We really don't need much. Set this as the floor. Set this as the origin. And voila. Now we have something a lot more reasonable. Now, one thing I do like to do, especially when I'm working with a solver constraint like this, and I'm a little bit more opinionated about where I want my, just where I want everything to be. So what I'm going to do, this is a little trick. I love working with empties. They're like so much fun. because what I can do is I can tell the empty to basically hang out and be the parent of the camera. So now the camera is actually a child of the empty. The camera has its own properties that are managed by the constraint. But what I can do here is I can just rotate the empty, and it rotates the camera. And what that effectively does is it rotates the entire world, which I think is super cool. And I've been pretty consistently putting the y-axis this way, the x-axis this way. The y-axis is backwards, so actually all the axes are backward. Here we go. So there's my x and y. I'm just gonna slide us down a little bit. I'm sliding us down a ton so that we can have the origin out by the floor. No, that's stupid. I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do that? You guys should have told me not to do that. Golly. All right, so now we're cooking with gas, guys. Look at that. That's beautiful. I'm telling you what. If that doesn't just make you want to cry, you have a dead heart inside. You should go talk to somebody about that. Gonna add ourselves a monkey. Oh no. That's not a monkey. Give me a monkey. Yes. Yes. All right. So now, here we go. We can rotate the monkey just a little bit. And then put the monkey on the floor there. Yes. Yes. And now, look at that. Look at that monkey on that desk. What? Hey, I'm just a monkey hanging out on a desk. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. All right, and then we can just, here's what we'll do. I'm going to move. We're just going to grab the cursor and slide it up just a little bit. And we're going to add ourselves a light. Yeah, I'm just going crazy now. Let's switch to cycles because that's how I roll. And let's make sure we have our transparency turned on. Let's get rid of this ground because nobody's using it. And let's make sure our light is big enough. Wait, which light am I? Now. Make it slightly bigger. And I mean, I guess the monkey is a little bit backlit. That's okay. We will add a couple more lights here to simulate the lighting rig that I actually used, which is like over here and then like here-ish. I was really going crazy with lights that day, I'll be honest. Yeah. Yes, and now we have a monkey on the desk. Guys, I cannot tell you how exciting this is for me. Tyler, I love it. That's right. We're figuring it out live, guys. If you thought we were professionals, you will be disappointed. All right. What do I want to do now? All right, couple other real quick things, and then we'll sign off for the evening. I'm going to do... Oh, no, that's not right. I'm going to do a subdivision surface. You got to smooth out that monkey. Yes. Yes. And then, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put the cursor back at the origin. And I'm going to add a ground plane. And you're going to say, but Alex, didn't you just delete your ground plane? Yes, I am very short-sighted. I want you to know that. You're welcome. Let's wireframe this guy. Because what I want to do... Oh, no. What? Oh, here we go. Let's switch to that. I'm just going to scale this guy out a little bit to match. You know, that's close enough. Yes. All right. So now you're gonna say, well, what was the purpose of that? Here's what's the purpose of that. We are gonna switch our plane when I find it. It's in here somewhere. Boom. Shadow catcher. Yes. So now... What? No. That's not... What? No. Yeah. So now you can see the monkey is actually casting a shadow on the desk. I love it. I'm going to harden up the shadow just a little bit. Yes. These are the things that I love to see. We have a monkey on the desk, casting a shadow on the desk. And, I mean, no one could possibly look at this and say that it's not real. This is more real than real life. I'm sure everyone agrees. All of my 4 viewers. Hello, all 4 of you. Thank you for watching. All right. So I think I'm going to render this out and call it a day because this might be the most beautiful thing I've ever made. This is amazing. And I'm gonna send this I'm gonna post this in the Discord because this is so much fun. All right, so everybody, thank you so much for watching. This is actually the first opening shot of the new Malex Minute episode, minus the monkey. I mean, again, as much as we all love Suzanne, this show has its own stuff in it. That's you know, for us. That's not for Suzanne. So I will be doing a little bit more CGI work on this to actually put the right toys in the scene in the correct place, render them out with tune lines. There's going to be a ton of fun stuff going on there and some compositing, all that jazz. But guys, we just did it. It was like just over an hour, or just under an hour if you minus out all of my garbage talking. And we just put some CGI into a scene where I was not only, this is actually kind of impressive if you think about it, not only was I wrong about, I did not have the right lens information about what lens I was using or where it was located, but I was actually wrong about everything. I had completely the wrong camera intrinsics, actually put the wrong camera intrinsics into Blender, and somehow, after iterating through the process, Blender managed to figure it out and tell me to stop being so dumb. And holy cow, we came out with this, which I feel very good about. So, again, thank you for watching. Again, huge shout out to my brand new Patreon supporters, my mom and dad, my sister Susie and her husband Drew, my brother Gabe and his wife Rachel, and my sister-in-law Michaela and her husband Brad. Thank you all so much for believing in what we're doing and believing in the mission. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, I'll make sure to put links in the description as far as links to Patreon, links to our Discord, links to our app, all that fun jazz. And yeah, like, please let me know what else you guys want to see. I have a whole list here, actually, from the visual effects that we have still to do and the conversation that we've had up to this point. Motion reconstruction was a big one, and we have more to do on that because I actually have another scene that is, another shot in this scene. It's the same scene, but another shot that has much more complex motion involved, and I need to recover the motion of objects, not just the camera. So that'll be next. And green screen keying is also coming up. I've got a couple of different techniques there that I want to show because, again, there's a couple of different complexities in the next couple of shots that I need to do. I still, on the docket, I'm still on the hook to show you guys my Arduino light board that I built to help to cast animated light and really integrate actors into the scene a little better. I want to do a whole section on fire because I actually produced some assets, and I'd like to give my Patreon supporters some blend files with some image sequences if you guys are interested in that. And then a couple of other just odds and ends I have written down that I'd like to show you. But please let me know what you want to see. I'm building this whole show, like this whole episode, in Blender. I mean, literally shot by shot. And so everything, let me know. Everything is on the table. I'm happy to show you guys the whole process, whatever you're interested in. So like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. And, have a good evening. Let's see. And again, shout out to Tyler, Nicole, and Fan24DRR. Really appreciate you guys watching, and anyone else who didn't say hi. I mean, thank you for watching, but shame on you. You should say hi next time. I expect better. All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good one, everybody.